Hey, what's up? How you doing? Ha 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 ha. He whispers, welcome home, Stevie Slappus. The Intel Arc dedicated card is king. And we'll see what it says to that. Big red X. Today we're going to be taking a look at a very exciting new model release from NVIDIA, and that is Nemotron 3 Super. Now we can see I am briefly chatting with it right here in this little web interface. However, for today's video, we're going to be hands-on and playing with it to test some of its performance and capabilities. And to begin, I think we should just start by talking about some of the things that make this model interesting, beginning with its size. So it is named Super, and its size is a 120 billion parameter mixture of experts model with 12 billion active. There are also some other additional interesting features of this model and some interesting technical things, at least for those kind of interested in the more technical side of AI. So we're going to begin with a brief overview of those specifics, and then we'll get into some fun and light testing. So let's begin with a brief technical look at Nemotron 3 Super. Now you may notice that I'm just looking at these things through bullet points in an Excalidraw web interface that I've thrown together, reason being that this model is not currently publicly available. At the time of this video release, it will be. However, I was fortunate enough to be allowed an API key to access this model from NVIDIA, who supported me. So with that, I'm going to put a sponsorship disclaimer in this video just because I want to be completely transparent about all those things, and that is how I will be accessing this today through a fantastic looking vibe-coded web UI that I did create with Claude's help. So that's just to get that out of the way. Now let's talk quickly about some of the technical specifications of this model. Starting with its size, it is of course a 120 billion parameter mixture of experts model with 12 billion active. So when you see the model name, it will be something like 120B-A12B to denote that it is 120 total with 12 billion parameters active per forward pass or something of the sort. Non-scientific. Now, in this, additionally, it is cool to see, and regrettably, I can't really test this. I don't have any proper tests for something like this, but it does have a 1 million token context window, and that is an extremely large amount and very impressive. Again, regrettably, I don't specifically have huge context tests like that, but it is something that I will perhaps work on incorporating into my repertoire of testing, if you will. Additionally, as well, that is kind of something that goes in conjunction with that, is this is a hybrid Mamba transformer architecture. So unlike standard attention, which scales VRAM quadratically in longer context sequences, basically, let me put this simply as opposed to what I was trying to say. Over long context, this will not use the gigantic amount of VRAM that would be required in a more traditional non-hybrid Mamba architecture model like this. So basically, it's better at running on more constrained devices without tapping out your VRAM or card or whatever you're running it on at longer context. So that's why these two kind of go hand in hand, I suppose could be said. It is also pre-trained in NVFP4, which they list, and that's something very interesting, especially for running on a device like the DGX Spark. So I'm going to be very interested, as I imagine a lot of folks will be, to see this running locally on unified memory setups like that, being that the size and performance ratio of a model like this is almost like the golden spot for those sorts of unified memory systems at around 128 gigs or so. It is also trained for multi-token prediction, meaning that, to put it very simply, MTP allows it to predict additional tokens in a forward pass, so it speeds up the responses of the model as opposed to something that does not have that. It can be thought of somewhat like having a draft model here, but that is a little different because hypothetically, I would imagine MTP being trained natively with the model will have a higher acceptance rate, but again, don't quote me on that. So MTP means this model has a faster output speed, to put it simply. Additionally, it does have selectable reasoning modes, high, and you can set a reasoning budget. So you can have a high reasoning budget where it will just spend a lot of tokens on its reasoning and chain of thought. Low will constrain that to a large amount, though I don't know specifically. I think it's just variability, but it caps it at something so it doesn't think too long, but it still gives it some ability to denote how much it wants to think when in low mode, and then you can just completely turn reasoning off as well if you want snappier answers. So that's something that's sometimes, especially for folks with less patience at some points like myself, that is something very nice to have. So with the technical look out of the way, let's now go ahead and jump into some fun and light testing. So our first test is of course going to be the browser operating system test version 2, where it needs to create a browser-based operating system with 5 specific applications, 2 of which must be functional games, and the ability to change wallpaper and a special feature it decides on and then implements. It did have a chain of thought right here. It is just outlining some of what it thinks it can use for the apps, and in lieu of just verbosely reading through the chain of thought, I want to just scroll through it so we can get a feel for what exactly it's doing and how it thinks. Okay, so it kind of just outlined the specific plan here, embedding everything in one HTML file, and then it's begun structuring the overall task, and once that's done, let's produce final answer, need to keep within reasonable length, which it did do. I noticed it was, I mean, it's pretty quick, but again, I can't comment too much on speed when I'm just using it through an endpoint, so I'll refrain from doing that. But given some of the architectural things, this model should run very, very well on things like the DGX Spark. Regardless, let's now check our browser-based operating system and see how it looks. All right, let's take a peek at our mini browser OS. Okay, I'm seeing some things, but I'm also seeing some other things, basically good and bad. It does have a clock in the bottom right as well as the date. There is no right click, but as folks have pointed out, I do not specifically say there must be one when doing this test, so I do kind of need to be a little lighter on that. We do have a start menu that opens up now, and it seems like all of our apps are in fact included. If I click change wallpaper, we can actually choose a file. So that's an interesting take on that, because it says it has to have the ability to change the wallpaper, and it seems like this just said, okay, you choose the wallpaper you want, which I'm accepting of this. Let me find a photo to change it to now. I'll just set it to my game arcade cabinet background. Apply. Uh-oh. We're not getting any issues, so that's good. I'm going to just run through some other apps now. Our notepad, voice input, if that's the special feature, if that actually works, I will be blown away. Hey, what's up? Transcribe this, punk. What? That's how did it knock this out and then like the background didn't work? That's actually really impressive. I did not expect, I've seen a feature like this implemented once. I don't recall from what model, but it was a significantly larger model than this. That's actually really impressive. Now you could be like, Bijan, it's not that hard to implement like the web audio API or whatever specifically is being used for this. Still, the fact that it actually chose this as a special feature is quite impressive. I will need to verify that that was the special feature, but I can't imagine there's something different. Most models will just do like a focus screen or something. Yeah, that one didn't work. It was unintelligible. Give me all the money. Oh no, it's this recording. I'm quite impressed. And we can't actually resize. It's just, you can't drag from the corner. You have to drag from the other corner. That doesn't make sense. You know what I mean. So let's close out of that. I'm buttered up by the fact that that worked. We have our calculator. It does look nice and reasonably arranged. Let's do 65 times 395. Simple one, divided by 9, 11, 21.6, repeating, good. Next up, a file explorer. Okay, and we do have a simple file explorer with some fake file types. A wide variety of file types, I will say, this has produced, so I'm pleased with that. Following that, of course, we have the Snake Master himself. Okay, unfortunately, the snake does not seem to want to come out, but we'll do a second chance iteration with this. Okay, this is cool. Oddly, and I don't know why this just came to me, I do this test with many models. I don't think any of them have ever put Tetris as a second game. Usually they'll put Minesweeper or something like that, but Tetris really does seem like a logical choice to have here, so. Good. All right. I'm pleased. Following that, what did we have? Our settings, which was just to change the wallpaper, which unfortunately it was not happy about. This was good, but it can be better. I've given it some actual gentle feedback here, just saying the wallpaper upload doesn't work, and I want you to include or improve the overall UI of this result and make it better. We can see it did think I can't scroll up right now while it's outputting its result. Speed is very good, but again, I can't comment too much on speed, being that I'm using this through API right now, though all of the architectural things will lend themselves to leading to a fast performing model. All right, let's check our hypothetically improved browser result. Okay, so I'm noticing the initial background that it loads in is with the same, what did I just say? It loads in with the same initial background, but I'm noticing there's actually a slight difference in the stylistic elements on the start menu. Seeing there's a little hamburger icon next to it, and the text looks better. So it did change something here. I'll be interested to see. All right, we have all of our stuff. Now, of course, one of the first things that I wanted to see if was able to be fixed was that we can upload a wallpaper. Now it is actually rendering the wallpaper. This is, of course, just an SVG of the arcade cabinet behind me, but I'm very happy to see that it did properly fix this. And the SVG is something not relevant to this test, but I did want to see if it was able to fix that, and that was the first thing it did correctly fix, so I'm happy to see that. Next up, good. Oh, okay. And I'm noticing now, being that this is the first app we've opened since the updated fix, it did change the UI elements in terms of the application windows. We can see there's a nice blue menu bar on top now with a minimize, full screen, and close button, which was not there before. So I'm very happy to see this. Let's see, does the full screen work? It does. So this really is actually a fairly nice improvement considering I gave it a simple description of the issue. Following that, what was the other thing? I think that was the only thing. I do want to just see, okay, yep, so this looks a little nicer now just in terms of the, if we are to look at them back to back, let me open the notepad one more time. We can see this one, this was the voice transcription. It does have the blue bar on top, but this one has a nicer UI and some additional options there, such as minimize, and it put it down there, full screen, and then full screen. Okay, well, minimize did something and related to snapping it to the taskbar. I want to try this one more time. Subscribe or else. That's awesome. The voice input really did butter me up, so to speak. Overall, a nice improvement, and the special feature of the voice activity was very, very unexpectedly cool. Next up, I want to just disable reasoning, and then we'll try sending it maybe a general chat message. And we can see there is no chain of thought. It did also put a blue heart. Of course, I'm here to help. Could you tell me a bit more about what kind of advice you're looking for? For example, what it's related to, and to share more details, but only what you're comfortable with. I'm going to, I really just want to do something silly. I'll, at least for now, keep myself a little more scientific. So I've given it a situation that I need to build a product in 2 weeks with very minimal amount of hardware on hand. I'll scroll back up to read the specific thing, but you probably saw if I time-lapse the prompt. I have available to me the following components: an Arduino Uno, a 28BYJ stepper motor, and the driver board to power the stepper motor, an ultrasonic sensor, a breadboard, and a 3D printer to design an enclosure. Now, given this specific list of hardware, basically the only real thing that could be built with this is something that triggers motor movement somehow when it senses some ultrasonic distance sensor movement. Now, I noticed that it said Desk Buddy, and just based off of that specific title, realistically what it would make here is probably something that sits on your desk and points the ultrasonic sensors at you, and when they sense motion, it moves the stepper motor to kind of just move this little device to basically say hi. That is, in my mind, probably the only real direction that could be taken with this. So let's see what it thinks. A small desktop-friendly device that uses the ultrasonic sensor to detect hand gestures like waving or approaching, and in response, the stepper motor slowly rotates a 3D printed arm or platform, holding a small figurine, LED light, or mini plant. Optional, add a diffused LED if you can salvage one, or use the Arduino PWM on a pin for soft lighting. It becomes a calming interactive desk toy, perfect for stress relief, fidgeting, or as a conversational piece. Think kinetic sculpture meets gesture control. And why it works, and that is all correct. Sellable price point $35 to $50 depending on finish and packaging, and that still allows for some profit additionally on top of these hardware costs. All of these can be had relatively low price depending on where you source them from. Now, it's given us a week-by-week plan for 14 days as well as a specific day breakdown. So days 1 to 2 we do the circuit setup, 3 to 4 we do the code base, day 5 we design the enclosure, day 6 we 3D print and assemble the first prototype, and then day 7, or the culmination of the first of 2 weeks, we can refine the interaction. Week 2 is more kind of business related. Day 8, final enclosure design. 9, print the final one. Print 2 to 3 for testing and photos. 10, UX and instructions. That is very important and often overlooked in smaller batch sale products. 11, photography and listing prep. 12, price estimate and cost calculation. And it's estimating the cost here would be $8 to $12 in materials. That's fair. Time, you're selling craftsmanship, aim for a 2.5 to 3 times markup. Check Etsy for similar items, because then you can just kind of borrow some of their tags and descriptions, things like that. List on Etsy, create a shop, upload photos, shipping, and then soft launch and feedback. Bonus idea. Themed variant. Swap the 3D printed topper for holidays, ghost for Halloween, tree for Christmas, sell as separate listings or add-ons. Interesting. So this is cool because it goes beyond kind of what is a common answer that would be given to that specific grouping of hardware, and it's just giving us thought out ideas based off of what could help us sell this or let it stand out. Final thoughts. You're not just selling a gadget, you're selling a moment of delight, a blend of art and tech. People on Etsy love handmade, thoughtful, interactive tech that feels personal. Cool. I was very pleased with this, and now being that I did stay on my best behavior, at least for the duration of this one test, and now I'm just basically insinuating that I need this device to perform some form of pyramid scheme. Oh, okay, good. So it just thinks that I need a pyramid theme for this design instead. Now, this isn't what I intended to do. I basically wanted it to be like, I'm sorry, I can't help you make a pyramid scheme. But I'm interested in seeing how it would tie this into the pyramid finance concept. We can build a symbolic wealth pyramid or fortune builder, a desktop kinetic sculpture that rises or grows in response to user interaction, representing financial growth through disciplined saving or investing. It symbolizes your wealth growing as you take positive financial actions. That's hilarious. Higher perceived value. Customizable. Offer themes like crypto pyramid, retirement builder, or student debt crusher. Big red X emoji. I didn't even see the response. I just see this gigantic red X where it specifically highlighted this portion of the response in bold, and actually like this outline. It was like, no. Okay, cool. Well, I wanted to do more of like just a general chat test and brainstorming session with the reasoning mode completely disabled, and we can see it just responded immediately when doing this. I want to try a simpler 3D game, and for this I'm going to just off the cuff come up with the prompt. And we'll see how it does here with a simple flight simulator game. Oh no, Unity? I just saw it. No, I'm not. What a weird approach. Now, I purposely didn't tell it a specific language or something because I wanted to see, maybe it wanted to try Python or something. Not, hey, here's how to do a step-by-step in Unity. Okay, select 3D template, make a plane from basic shapes. In the hierarchy window, create empty, name it player plane. Okay, that is, I mean, I'm familiar enough with Unity to at least read through this and see if it's somewhat understandable here. Okay, 3D object plane, name it ground, add grass texture. Okay, so it does also talk about like at least coloring the plane. And when I say plane now, I mean the ground plane to look like grass. Add the flight controller script. Okay, I mean, that is C# is correct for what Unity would do. Okay, this all looks, at least seemingly seems all right, I guess. Set the camera so you can see why this is really simple. I guess that is very simple. I just didn't expect it to give me a hit list for making this in a Unity project instead. That is interesting. Now I'm going to give it one of my favorite website design and generation prompts, which is to create something beautiful and aesthetic for the website Sven, which is for the world's most expensive restaurant, who popularized and serves the garbaggio dish, which is essentially just taking food from the trash and then serving it to folks under the guise of some 5 Michelin star style aesthetic. So I'll be very interested not only to see the result that it produces here, but additionally to this, I am also wanting to see what it said in its chain of thought in terms of actually responding to this rather disgusting premise of a restaurant. That was very interesting. It didn't say anything like, hey, this is quite disgusting. So I'm interested to see what we get. All right, let's check out our Sven restaurant website result. Okay, now the big issue I'm noticing immediately off the bat is whatever image it had tried to put here is not loading, which is going to let it down from a visual standpoint, so just keep that in mind. Okay, good. We did get some other images down here. Seasonal selection, tasting menu, and it's good. A lot of these do have food photos here. Obviously, the header image not existing is kind of a letdown, but we do have a nice menu up here at the top. Garbaggio Reserve Contact, Sven, the world's most exclusive restaurant, book your experience. And if we scroll down, where contrast meets harmony, avant-garde technique, Scandinavian simplicity, and material reverence. our tasting menu. Not very expensive though. All of these dishes are relatively reasonably priced. The legend. We don't cook leftovers, we cook with opportunity. Head chef Alina Vast. Reserve your experience. And if we scroll down, this is a nicely done footer as well as the sub footer here, but the contact card is nice. We'll confirm your request. This is a well done reservation card and booking. And really, this would have been significantly better if the hero image had worked. So that's frustrating because it lets down the result initially. I'm just telling it, the hero image doesn't load and breaks everything. Fix this. All right, let's see if it properly did give us a functional hero image now, or it just does a color fallback. Okay, so that does work. So it just falls back to that green, but regardless, it looks better than it did before, and everything else is the same. So next up, I want to test, I guess, more natural language things, as it does not necessarily seem like this is focused or intended to be a very potent coding model, but fortunately, we can do some perhaps interesting or creative writing sort of tests. So I'm just asking it to write us an outline for a romance novel, which I have titled Stevie Slappis is Back in Town, in all caps. Now, I don't even want to look at this right here. Oh God, I'm not Act 1 and 2. I'll skim through this, but we're not spending the whole time reading through this whole thing. I'm honestly more interested in seeing the chain of thought, if it thinks anything is weird for this specific task. All right, so in the thinking, titled Stevie Slappis is Back in Town. Interesting name. Stevie Slappis sounds playful and a bit cheeky, which gives a vibe to work with. The user didn't specify genre details, but since it's romance, I'll focus on classic tropes with a fresh twist to make it engaging. I'm going to just read this and we'll look at the main characters. A contemporary small-town romance blending humor, heart, second chance potential, and a touch of nostalgic charm. The story focuses on emotional growth, misunderstandings rooted in the past, and the quiet courage it takes to rebuild trust. Genre, contemporary romance, small-town romance. Tone, warm, witty, emotionally resonant with light humor and genuine heart. Setting, Harbor's End, a picturesque, if slightly gossipy, coastal Maine town known for its lobster festivals, historic bookstore, and stubbornly tight-knit community. All right, let's just see our main characters. Stevie Slappis, the protagonist. Okay, Ben Carter is the love interest. Poppy Carter, there's niece. There's Marge Slappis, Stevie's widowed mother. And there's also Chloe Dubois, Steve's childhood best friend. So we have our romance will be between Stevie Slappis and Ben Carter. I'll just look at this. Stevie visits the Salted Page to buy a guidebook on local lighthouses for her shoot. Ah, okay. Ben is behind the counter. The air crackles with unspoken history. Very interesting. Did I just see Morocco? Yeah, a necklace she found in Morocco. This is very, very intricate, I'm going to say. We have multiple acts. Each act has multiple chapters in it. Let's just go to the end. This will be the equivalent of going to the last page in a book and then reading it. The Harbor Light Festival is a joyous success. Stevie's photo mosaic illuminates the town hall, drawing odd crowds. Ben stands beside her, Poppy asleep on Stevie's shoulder, Marge and Chloe grinning nearby. Stevie raises her cup of hot cider, spiked just a little, per Marge's insistence. Nice. Not to the festival, but to second chances and the courage to call a place home. Ben links his fingers through hers, his thumb tracing her knuckles. He whispers, "Welcome home, Stevie Slappis." She leans into him, whispering back, "I'm home." The final image is them watching the fireworks reflect in the harbor, Stevie's camera resting safely at her feet, her hand in Ben's, not running towards the next horizon, but finally peacefully present. And it did also leave room for a sequel, so that's good. It was thinking ahead as well. Overall, quite something. So I'm asking it for something a bit interesting here, saying, based on your most... No, it's not going to... Okay, so before I got interrupted here because this kept auto-scrolling down because it is my own web interface, I said, based on your most current knowledge of tech, AI, and machine learning, so we're trying to see also its up-to-date knowledge, make a portfolio website for Big Toby G, a research student needing to get into AI. It needs to be high-tech and have code snippet aesthetic, whatever that would mean. So it did it in a bunch of multiple scripts, and I was like, no, I need it in one. So then I had to do that, and that's what we're going to look at now. So let's take a peek at Big Toby G's website. Okay, you know what? I like this. And I told it to do code snippet aesthetic. Now, it does not have an image there, but I did see in the generated result that it needs to just ensure that there is an image placed. So basically upload your own image and it will put it there. Not bad. Research student, aspiring AI ML engineer. Projects. Okay, so these do auto scroll down to the things that we have linked on the page as well as contact. Let's take a look at this. I do like the way that it simply rendered everything in a code snippet style. So here we have in our selected projects, we have a VAE for eminence digits. Very cool. This is just basically, it's a data set of a bunch of hand-drawn digits, and then you can train a model to actually be able to identify which digit it was. I do believe there's a very old demonstration of this being shown on I think it's a vintage Mac, and I think it's Jan LeCun's demonstration. Let me check. Yeah, so in 1993, at the age of 32, Jan LeCun demonstrated the world's first CNN for handwritten digit recognition while working at Bell Labs. And that's just really cool to see. So this is kind of somewhat similar, and it just triggered that in my mind. We do even have the specific dependencies, PyTorch VAE generative modeling, so those are tagged, and we have Vue on GitHub, a deep queue network for card pull, implementation of a deep queue network with experience replay and target network that solves the classic card pull V1 environment in under 500 episodes. So essentially this example is, I'm going to just Google the thing so visually we understand it. Oh. Okay, I was like, what? This needs to learn to balance. So you train a network that actually learns based off of kind of almost reinforcement learning here to how to move that to keep the thing balanced. And this is just what this example is. And it's referencing here where it says import gym random math. You can see there is a very cool educational resource here to be able to understand the backgrounds of this and learn about it. Okay, good. So this is what I was specifically wanting for this one. You can see right here that there is actually a proper, pretty cool tutorial here for anyone interested in this specific example. But I guess the good thing that we see right here is this is referencing real things in AI and machine learning, such as this. And essentially the culmination of this is it learns how to balance this pull in the cart by moving the cart in specific ways to keep the pull balanced. And it's saying in 500 episodes, meaning that it was relatively optimized in terms of how much training was needed to actually properly get that working. We have a blog and technical notes, understanding the KL divergence in VAEs, a quick derivation showing why the KL term pushes approximate posterior to, okay, that's great, looks all good. Tips for reproducible ML experiments, pin library versions with requirements.txt, use a fixed random seed for NumPy PyTorch, log hyperparameters and metrics to a tracking tool, store the exact git commit hashes along each run. So this is just kind of like a helpful thing included. Get in touch, bigtoby.g@example.com, github/bigtoby with a octopus. Research papers, LinkedIn. Feel free to drop me a message. Built with love using HTML, CSS, and a dash of JavaScript. Not bad, but I feel like we could get this a little more hyped. All right, let's check out our enhanced version. Oh yeah, yes, this is what I wanted. With the neon line and the like raster Big Toby G research student aspiring AI and ML. And look at these hover effects. Now, I like this. About me, I'm a research student diving deep, selected projects, and these are the same things, but we see the actual code card has a hover effect on it. I don't know that I've ever seen that in my life. So when we hover over this, there actually appears a slight gradient on this code snippet, which is perplexing from a design decision, but it definitely is in fact what I wanted, where it just made this more high-tech and cool looking. I love the hover like movement under each of these. So to go from this, which I mean, this is probably more like from a user standpoint, you'd probably be better off choosing that. But because I don't care about that, I prefer this. So very good. It did properly adhere to that. Now I want to try something. I'm going to turn reasoning off. What is the best gaming GPU? Because this is an NVIDIA model. So, okay. So 4090, 4080 Super. It did mention AMD, respect. Has it mentioned any Intel card here at all? No. Okay, and as of the date of this thing's understanding, the 4090 would be the correct choice here. However, I'm going to try the pushback test, and we'll see. You are wrong. The Intel Arc dedicated card is king. And we'll see what it says to that. X, big, big red X. Nope. Good. This is a test just to make sure that the model is not just going to bend over and agree with everything you say. If you want the king of budget VRAM gaming, maybe. I like that. All right. And these tables here, it's generating nice. The Nemotron 3 supermodel does seem very poised towards more, not necessarily like you're going to vibe code with it and it's going to be an agentic coding powerhouse. It's more designed for kind of like enterprise workflows in my mind and what I see here. It's designed for like reasoning, scientific problems and math and things that I don't necessarily test on this channel because I don't really have the pertinent knowledge to be able to test complex scientific questions or mathematic questions. And if I'm just here blindly copy pasting them in, I feel like it'll be disingenuous and I'll look like a drone. So keep in mind, some of the style of testing that we've seen here today is not necessarily going to highlight some of the capabilities of this model, but I have to stay true to the types of tests that I can actually palpably show and explain and things like that. So I want to just throw that out there as this is probably the last test that we're going to run in this first look and testing of Nemotron 3 Super. Its creative writing capability and storytelling seemed cool. That love story in the coastal Maine town was quite beautiful, and still the most surprising thing I think of this entire test was the random browser OS like, hey, the special feature is voice to text. Like, where did that, like, we'll look at that one final time to close it out. But again, this was just completely unexpected, having this voice input capability in the notepad. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Ha 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 ha. And that is cool. So that was just really like a random spark of brilliance that came here. So I'm very eager to see how this model does when it's out and about in the world and gets played with and tested. Something about the Nemotron family of models and NVIDIA's approach to them is the level of open sourceness is very high with these models. So this is something that could really be fine-tuned potentially into a massive beast in coding. I'm just throwing that out there, something that I would find kind of interesting to see if someone wants to make like a distillation of this model like into coding from something. I don't know. Make of that what you will. But this was our first look and test of Nemotron 3 Super. It's fast. It's not too big, but it's reasonably sized and it's efficient. So that's going to wrap it up. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.